Hey guys, so today we'll be chitting out potatoes as well as starting a bunch of seeds. So seeds for this week are any grasses, basil, cockscombs, beebalms or lemon balms, cosmos, nicotiana, zinnia, asters, marigolds, hollyhocks, salpiglossis, I don't know how to say that. And that's what I've been starting this week. I've been running out of seed trays. So I've been scrounging. I don't like the peat pots or peat moss, peat pods or pucks or whatever they're called. But I do still have some of these inserts from a long time ago, and what I've been doing is just putting these into trays and packing them with soil, hoping that the little tiny indents here will provide a slightly separated root zone, and I'll be seeding some stuff into soil like that, especially next week as I've almost run out of pots. And yeah, so that's what we're doing this week. I'll give you a bit of a tour of what's all growing and finish off by showing you how the potatoes get chitted out. And I think that's everything. All right, guys, so what's in the window? We've got, the peppers are doing really well. They're starting to get fairly large. They've got first and second sets of true leaves. I'll be thinning them out. I conferred with my husband and he agreed that we can afford to have more peppers if we want. So if I have enough pots for them, I will be snipping these off and rooting them in separate pots, or if they're far enough away from the ones that I want to keep in these trays, I'll just tug them out gently. Those are doing really well. My flowers that I started the other week are doing really well. We've got beautiful artichokes. These are so fuzzy. They're getting big really fast, so they'll probably need potting up in a couple weeks. Onions are doing really well. I'm hoping, like I said before, that I can get them out into the garden in 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the weather. They can handle some frost, so I can put them out in the beginning of May. I've had to pot up some of my alyssum into a slightly larger size, partly because I needed more of these trays and all the stores are out, and partly because they were starting to show a little bit of nutrient deficiency, so I put them in a slightly bigger pot and gave them some fertilizer. So I've had to transplant the asparagus into larger pots as they were starting to circle the bottoms. I still have some cabbages from my winter growing left over. I'm going to plant them out just to see what they do once it's actually warm enough. Unfortunately, guys, my freezer is being really loud and annoying, so if that sound is bothering you, I'm very, very sorry. I am going to be chitting out my potatoes this week. So these are just potatoes I've had in the cold storage, but you can certainly buy seed potatoes, and if you don't have high quality potatoes in your cold storage or access to them, I recommend seed potatoes. But if all you can get is grocery store potatoes that have sprouted, go for it. They'll be fine. They will grow. And all I'm looking to do is getting a potato like this. If it's got small eyes like these, they'll be fine. I'll leave them on. I'm just going to spread them out in a tray. Little eyes, good. Long eyes, I don't keep. I'm just going to break them off, put them in the compost. I have heard that you can actually break off the eyes and root them. As you can see, they would like to root, but I usually go for just the tubers and then get them to make fresh eyes. So why to chit out? The little short eyes, as you can see, when they're in storage in a dark place, they'll make a really long eye. This is a purple potato. It's got a purple eye. they'll make really long eyes and they'll actually suck the moisture out of the potato. So you'll see this potato is a little bit squishier than the ones that only have short eyes. I don't want them to make these really long eyes because when I go put them in the ground, I'm only going to dig them this deep, if that. So I don't need the super long eye, and it's going to suck all the vigor and moisture out of this potato before it actually gets into the ground. So I'm going to snap off all the long ones, and then I'm going to put these in a bright but not direct sun spot. You don't want direct sun because your potatoes are going to turn green and get sunburnt potentially, which is, I guess, what green is. I should separate my purples and my whites. If you put them in the sun, instead of forming long eyes stretching to find the sun, because these eyes, they're pretending like they're in soil. They're going to go as long as they have to before they get to the surface. But the longer the eyes are, the less vigor it has by the time it reaches the soil surface. If I put it in the sun, it thinks that as soon as the eyes sprout, even if they're this short, that is at the surface level, and they will start greening up and they'll start branching out. And they do that so much more slowly in the sun that the potatoes tend to do better. So for this one, it's got a really long eye on a little short stubby eye, and I'm just going to break off that one and that one and leave that guy alone. He'll be fine. And you want to lay them down on something that is going to either breathe or be absorbent, so that if there's a mold issue, they don't just mold each other. You want them in a single layer for the same reason. You don't want mold to be forming. There's a great use for those cardboard egg cartons, actually. I found the cardboard egg cartons aren't very good for starting seeds. They mold really easily when they're wet, but if you put a bunch of dry potatoes on them, they'll be fine. So this one has been, I left this eye on, I pulled these upstairs, so into a brighter spot earlier on, and you can see just how it's getting much thicker and starting to put little side shoots on instead of making a really long eye. So this one actually looks pretty good, so I'm actually going to leave this one just as an experiment to see what happens. But these longer eyes on the rest I'm still going to take off. So if you don't chit out your potatoes, you can still plant them. They will still grow. They'll just take a little bit longer because they obviously have to form those eyes under the ground after you plant them before they actually come up. So you certainly can grow potatoes without chitting out the eyes. But I find for our short season, I'll take any speed ground that I can get. Anything that speeds up the process is good for me. And I'm using mostly really small potatoes. Anything that's much bigger than this, anything that's this size or larger, I tend to eat instead. And then I'll save these smaller ones for sowing because I want to sow them whole as much as possible. You absolutely can cut seed potatoes, and I might have to for my purple ones because I don't have that many purples. I can demonstrate that here in a second. I just need to count them. See how many I've got. Alright. So I think I need 27 of each. 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 27, 28. Okay, so I definitely have enough white potatoes. I can donate some of the extras. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 21. I definitely do not have enough white potatoes. So what I can do is I can take one of these larger ones and cut it to show how I do that. And I would normally do this the week before I planted them out or as I'm planting them out, but just for the sake of showing you, I'll show you. So if we look at this potato here, we've got lots of eyes. 1, 2, 3, there's another bunch, there's another bunch, there's a bunch, there's a bunch. And these are potentials. So what I would do if I'm trying to get the most out of a very small amount of potatoes, I would take 2 sets of eyes, cut there. So that's 1 piece, and you want that to heal. You can sow them directly cut into the garden, but I find that that does attract wireworms. The smell of the potatoes attracts the wireworms, so if I do cut them directly before I sow them, then I'll actually dip that cut side in ash just to, what's the word? Disguise the smell of the freshly cut potato. So I've got 1, 2, 3 sets of eyes there, and I've got 1 eye over here. So I'm going to cut it so that this eye and this eye are on the same side. There we go. So there's 2 eyes on that piece, and there's potential eye and 2 sets of eyes there. And if you let these scab over, then that'll do the same thing as the ash. It'll disguise the smell. Got it, that's enough. So that's how you can make more seed potato out of what you've got. But I tend to use smaller potatoes and just plant them whole to prevent bugs from getting the scent of them. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. I really need your guys' response to my videos in order to actually know that I'm doing a good job. I don't know that I can keep going putting out whole days into making videos if nobody is actually getting any benefit from them. So please do let me know if this is content worth sharing or if it's helping you in any way. I really need that feedback. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see ya.